Hello everyone, welcome back to Code Escuela. So let's talk about nulls. So nulls, it's something that if you've been coding for quite some time, you know that nulls can be sometimes or uh, most of the time a pain in the ass to deal with. And so uh, today we will try to look at how we can minimize uh, problems that we'll encounter with use of nulls. And so yeah, one one thing with nulls is that you never know what uh objects would get returned from methods. So one of the suggested ways to minimize issues with nulls is that you don't return null values from your methods. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So let's look at this uh, code example here. So let's say we have a method. Okay, so uh, I have already here a simple console application that we will work on while we discuss with things about nulls. So let's say we have a method that would get a product, right? So based on the ID. Okay, let's just uh, set the return type for into void for now. Let's just not return a type. Okay, so let's say we have a product class here, right? That has two properties, ID and name, and then that is something that we will return for our product. Okay, product. So what usually happens is that you have these query methods from the query stuff from wherever data sources they are. So what happens is that let's say we return a new product here. Okay, so uh, there could be situations where you end up with a null product. Okay, so let's say we'll use that to call here. So for product, then you get product one. So usually you return a product, or you can return, or there could be cases where the returned object would be null. Okay, so uh, how do we deal with on the color side? So in this case, we usually make sure that if we do this, right, the product is equal to null, or let's say not equal to null, depending on your uh, type of guard clauses. So in this case, if we only work with non-null products, okay, or objects, so that would be all good. Okay, but you never know what would happen when you call this get product method. It could either return a null or a product object. Okay, so with C Sharp, a better way to make your callers more expect something much more clearer on their end. So maybe you can return a like that, okay, a nullable product. So in this case, then the caller would have to make sure that yeah, they have to check for nulls in this case. So like for say like this, or uh, one option would be that uh, I don't think we have a yeah. So the product would be like that, right? Or else you can easily, if you assign it to something, some other variable, okay, product name, then you do this null coalescing stuff. All right, so that's good way of dealing with nulls in this case. uh the other thing would be, instead of returning single objects, you can return just list. So in this case, so let's say let's add another method here. So now we will return a list of product. Okay, get products. All right. Oops. Okay, let's say we have that, right? Oops, what is happening with my uh license here? And then return products. Okay, so one good way to prevent dealing with nulls, or say you keep checking for nulls is like, instead of having this one method of uh, getting products or objects and returning it as a single object, then you can just have this list, okay? And then you can pass in a string of whatever parameter or search parameter in this case. So we are trying to deal with like methods that, yeah, would deal with returning the possibility of returning nulls, okay? And then when we want to prevent that, so we don't want to return nulls in this case. So what happens now is, in this case, we have this get product. So instead of getting products objects individually, we'll just call it and return uh, a list of products. So now what would happen is that you do your querying here in between here, okay? Do something here. And then in your color, in this case here, what you only need to do now is, instead of this, you get uh, like that. For example, that would be the case, a query for electronic products. And then all the user has to do is just run a for loop or whatever it needs to do, right? And then the caller wouldn't have to worry whether to check for whether it is a null list, right? So you can just straight up use the return value without ever worrying whether it's null or not, okay? So that's one way of clarifying your intentions with your code, and then also for uh, the caller code, or the one that will be using your methods, okay? And so another good suggestion would be you don't receive null parameters, okay? So in this case, let's say if to prevent any further uh, bad effects on your code, so simply you can just, in this case, you add your guard clauses here. So instead of, so again, right off the bat in the beginning, you'll just uh, add some validations or guard clauses. So in this case, if your string that is empty, null or white space, so to check for the parameter, and then you'll just throw an error, right? Like that. So now it's now the responsibility of the uh, caller to handle the exceptions, okay, or errors. So yeah, there's could be uses for this kind of, or the strategy of handling parameters, right? So yeah, again, depending on your usage, you can clearly see here that as much as possible, it would be great if you don't return null, so that whatever the client or the caller calling code wouldn't have to worry about it, okay? So aside from that, one way also is that instead of if you go with this route, you can return an alternative object in this case, okay? Instead of a product, for example, if nothing has been found, then instead of returning null here, you can just return a variant of that product, okay? Or let's say you have class special product, okay? Product that would have all the defaults in this case, okay? So now what happens is that if nothing is found here, let's say if ID is equal to, let's just pretend that, yeah, that's all. Then all you have to do is just return special product like that, okay? Then you can add in the defaults. Now, what happens here is that instead of, let's remove this one, product is equal to get product, let's say like that, okay? Then all the user have to do is just continue using the product, all right? Without having, without necessarily doing the null check in this case, okay? Without doing that, since you get a special kind of object that is again basing off from your parent class. So you can still continue with the good case scenario in this situation. Okay, so yeah, I think that's something that I just want to share. So uh, as much as possible, if you can have the don't return nulls, but again, it depends on what you're trying to do here. So, and then make sure that the parameters of your methods uh, don't accept null or doesn't process any nulls, or right off the bat you add some guard clauses to prevent any uh, untoward, I mean unnecessary or unintended errors on your code. So yeah, maybe something that you want to share, if this would be something a good idea on your case, on your part. Have you encountered this way of handling your code? So please let me know in the comments section, and yeah, well, maybe we can try and discuss what would be another better way of handling uh, nulls in this case. So yeah, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you soon. And yeah, have a great and wonderful day, everyone. See you soon. Bye.